All right, sorry about that. How are we doing, ladies and gentlemen? It's Thursday night football. We're about to watch Miami Mike probably get cooked on live TV, and I don't know if his job's going to be safe anytime soon. But let's talk about the Niners real quick. We'll keep it short. Brock Purdy returned to practice today, second day in a row, and he talked to the media. It was actually funny because I was sitting there waiting after I saw my patients. I'm ready to see Brock Purdy, hear what he says. Mac Jones comes out. Everybody's freaking out, including myself. And I was like, yo, what's going on here? Why is Mac Jones here? And everybody started thinking, like, is Mac going to start? Because typically the starting quarterback comes out and talks to the media. And then, boom, here comes the swear of Brock Purdy came out. They had both quarterbacks talk. Arizona's on their toes, no pun intended, literally on their toes with Brock Purdy and his toe injury. But let's get to the business of it all. This morning, John Lynch said that they're encouraged that Brock Purdy's came back to practice. They'll make an organizational decision on whether he's going to play on Sunday. That's what John Lynch says. But he says they're encouraged. Good news. And today, Brock Purdy came back to practice, as we all know, and he practiced for the second day in a row. And that's big. You know, turf toe, it could have been worse because look at Joe Burrow. He had nasty turf toe, and he can't play until like 3 months. He had to get surgery. It was a nasty injury. So, unfortunately, for Joe Burrow, it was a bad one. And Brock, it could have been worse. So he came back to practice today, and it's a good sign. He was limited, but you could tell that, you know, it's a good sign. He was limited, though, when they made the ultimate status report for the day, and it looks like he was limited for the second day in a row, though. That's a good sign. And then Brock Purdy was actually on the media at the podium after Mac Jones talked, which, again, everybody was like, oh, my God, Mac's talked to the media, not Brock. And Mac says, it feels like a day-to-day thing this week. He says, I'm happy with the progress I've been making with my foot and my toe. He also said he wants to play, but he says he's got to see come game time how I feel. He says, I'd love to, but I'm trying to be smart with my body. He says, I want to play, but I got to be smart. So kind of a game time decision / day-to-day type thing, So it really is going to be a game time decision for Brock Purdy. Now, Mac Jones told the media that, hey, I'm not going to tip any hands or anything. He didn't want to give his, status. He's not saying if he's starting, if he's not, but he says he will go through this week as usual and be ready if his number is called. And another thing that Mac said, he says him and Brock Purdy were practicing together this week and preparing together to take on the Cardinals. So the Niners are not giving any sort of leeway to the Cardinals to know who's starting. Like if you're the Cardinals, you don't know who the heck you got to prepare for. You got to prepare for Mac. You got to prepare for Brock Purdy. They're keeping them kind of out of the dark. It's kind of nice. The 49ers are having a little gamesmanship here, and they're not letting Arizona have the upper hand in trying to figure out what they're going to do. So Brock spoke. Mac Jones spoke. They both said, they're preparing for the Cardinals to play for the Cardinals. Again, Mac Jones says, hey, I'm going to do my normal routine, and I'm going to prepare and be ready if my number is called. But he didn't say that he's going to be still. He didn't really tip his hat for, what he expects on Sunday. And Brock Purdy says, hey, I feel good. I feel better. I'm happy with where I'm at, but it's going to be, based on how I feel during game day. So we're going to see interesting stuff. Now, Kyle Shanahan was on KNBR, and despite the toe injury, he says Brock Purdy still has a chance to play Sunday against the Cardinals. So regardless of the toe injury, he still has a shot to play. Now, he says anytime you hear turf toe, you get nervous about that stuff. He says you don't know which kind it is, and the fact that he's been able to do some this week, I think is a real good sign, and give him a chance to play on Sunday. So basically, he's saying that, hey, Brock's got a chance to play. We're happy with his progress. We're happy with where he's come from. Just like John Lynch says, they're encouraged, but they got to see how he looks on Friday ahead of the game. So he could also suit up as the backup quarterback, as the emergency quarterback. That's what John Lynch said this morning. They asked him on KNBR, is there a chance that Brock could be the backup quarterback or the emergency quarterback? And they said, yeah, there's a chance for that. So even if Brock doesn't start, there's a chance that if Mac Jones, let's say something happens to him, hopefully not, that Brock could come in if they absolutely needed to. So there is a chance that Brock could be ready if Mac Jones goes down in the game. I mean, that's an emergency situation. That's, all hands on deck. So Brock's trending up. Mac Jones is going to be ready if he has to go. So good news. Now, there's other news that happened. Unfortunately, Juwan Jennings didn't practice for the second day, but I'm not too worried. He didn't do that last week. He came in on Friday. John Lynch he mentioned that they got to let the ankle heal. And Kyle Shanahan was on KMBR also, and he says, it's similar to last week. You got to take it easy. He came in on Friday last week, and that was huge for them. So hopefully he can go tomorrow. And that's the thing. Juwan Jennings, he could probably make it to game day without having to practice this week. He's the type of guy that can do it. So hopefully if he practices tomorrow, that's a good indicator that he could be ready to go for Sunday. But we're going to get game status reports tomorrow, after Kyle Shanahan meets with the media. So we'll see if he's questionable or doubtful. If he's questionable, I'm pretty sure Juwan Jennings is going to go. But again, we'll see how that injury report, looks tomorrow. And we'll see what Brock Purdy's injury report looks like tomorrow. Is he going to be questionable? Is he going to be out? What's going to happen? We can't wait to hear what Kyle Shanahan has to say tomorrow ahead of the media 2 days before the game. So Friday's always a big day because we kind of get to see these injury status reports and we get to kind of figure out who's really starting and not, right? So it'll be interesting. I hope Juwan Jennings plays because today Jordan Watkins was added to the injury report. Yesterday he was off the injury report. Today he was limited with the calf injury. So Jordan Watkins has been juggling these injuries, unfortunately, so far. He's been battling through his injuries over the last couple of weeks. And, he had the high ankle sprain. Now he's got the calf. So hopefully he can play. I really want to see Jordan Watkins. But Juwan Jennings, also with an ankle, this is going to be a tough week. And that's why I really think Ricky Pearsall could have a massive week, breakout week. He's been trending up, first down on every single catch. He's leading the league in yards per route run, yards per catch basically out there as a receiver. And he's bound to get a touchdown. I think he's going to have a big game, especially if Watkins can't play again and if Juwan Jennings is limited in any way. So we'll see how that goes. But, 49ers, they're getting semi-healthy, but they still got some injuries, right? George Kittle, Demarcus Robinson will come back next week, which is huge after suspension. Brandon Ayuk, he's been running on the field. He looks like he's trending up also. So good for the 49ers. And the fact they're 2-0 with such a young team and the fact that they're 2-0 with all these injuries is a good sign. And there's another stat I saw today. Actually, let me pull this one up. This is a pretty impressive stat. Check this out. The 49ers have the fourth most rookie snaps per the whole NFL. So 13.8% of their snaps come from the rookies. 13.8 of their snaps so far have come from the rookies, and they're 2-0. Three teams ahead of them. The Patriots are 17-1. The Browns, 15.7%. And the Dolphins, 15%. All of those teams have more reps from the rookies, but those teams aren't winning. I think the Patriots are 1-1. Browns are 0-2. Dolphins are 0-2. Probably going to be 0-3 after this game. All those teams have more reps from their rookies, and they're not winning teams. Now, the Niners, 13.8% snap percentage of their rookies, and they're 2-0. That's impressive. This is a very young team, and they're doing good, and these young players are going to get better and better and better. So that's a very positive stat. I saw that, and I was like, ooh, I gotta drop this stat yet. So Julia says, is Purdy or Mac taking first-team reps? They haven't really specified in practice. They're both out there doing what they got to do. They're not telling us. Again, Mac Jones is not tipping any information. He's not tipping his hat. Nobody knows who's doing what, but they're both preparing to play on Sunday is what the Mac Jones said, So Renee says, what do I think about the Texans coach might be on the hot seat? Oh, yeah, former 49ers defensive coordinator, D'Amico Ryans. I don't think he's on the hot seat. I mean, obviously, team's struggling right now. They're 0-2. I mean, even if they have a bad season, I think you don't fire him. He's been a good coach over there. He's really fixed things up. But they need to fix that offensive line. They need to fix, so they need to give CJ Stroud some weapons. And CJ Stroud's digressed, he's kind of regressed a little bit. But I still think he needs offensive linemen and he needs some better weapons out there. But, yeah, I mean, I love D'Amico. I would love to see him come back to Niners, but I don't think he'll get fired this year if they have a bad year. Plus, it's an easier division. I feel like at some point they can rebound and bounce back and still compete in that division. So Slick Rick says Chelsea. I think he's going to have a big game. Debbie says, do you and Smitty have a bet yet? Not yet. We'll probably have to make one on the road nonetheless. Yeah. Steven says, if Mike McDaniels gets fired, should they bring him back? I'm sure they would actually ask him, but I don't know. I feel like Mike, man, he needs some time to just rest and get better, but it was a bad decision to keep Tua. Tua is just not a good quarterback in my opinion. So again, that's my take, but we'll see how it goes with the rest of this Dolphin season. So far, it doesn't look good, and they just haven't looked good under Mike McDaniel over the last, several years. They started out kind of good, and I feel like the magic wore off, and now the real Tua is showing himself, and that's not a good thing. But any case, hey, that's not my problem. That's the Dolphins' problems. But let's take a look at some more. Make sure we didn't miss any updates. Oh, we didn't talk about Kyle Juszczyk. He was still in the concussion protocol today. He was in a blue non-contact jersey, so he didn't really practice. Blue non-contact jersey. So we'll see if he can get through the concussion protocol tomorrow. That should be a good sign of him playing on Sunday. But again, we'll see status reports tomorrow. I'm going to go through today's status report for practice. Nick Bosa was a full participant after having a vet day yesterday. Spencer Burford did not participate in practice for the second day in a row with a knee injury. Yetur Gross-Matos was limited today after not practicing with the knee injury. Jordan James, finger injury, he broke that finger a couple weeks ago. He was a full participant for back-to-back days. It's a good sign. Juwan Jennings, as we talked about, he didn't practice today either day because of a ankle and the shoulder injury from last week. Kyle Juszczyk, concussion. He was limited today. He didn't practice yesterday, but he's going through the concussion protocol. So it's, every day he's making a little bit of progress. Christian McCaffrey, full participant. Saran Neal, he's also in the concussion protocol, but he was limited today, so he's progressing through it. Brock Purdy, as we talked about, back-to-back days being a limited participant. Jordan Watkins was limited after not being on the injury report yesterday. And Trent Williams, he was limited in practice today. He has the bone bruise. He was able to play through it last week, but they're being very cautious with him. So overall, not too bad. I really hope Juwan Jennings is able to play next week because we desperately need Juwan Jennings. But that's pretty much it. Nothing too crazy. I'm excited for Sunday, the home opener. Trent Williams says he's hyped up to be in front of the faithful. Can't wait to hear the crowd roar. Fred Warner said that the other day. He says, you guys need to get energized, need to be loud. He said that the other day. So these players really want the Niner fans to be, just hyped up, which I think we all are if you're going to be at the game. I know I'm going to be there, and I'm going to be excited. So very good. We'll see what happens the rest of the next couple of days. Any big news, we'll drop it. We'll be live at some point. But guys, have a good rest of your night. Enjoy Thursday Night Football. I told you I'd keep it pretty short and simple. Love you. Go Niners. Maybe I'll hop on Instagram a little later, and we'll go live. Love you. Have a great night.